Benjamin always believed wealthy people had access to some secret formula. But what exactly? It wasn't envy. It was curiosity. For 5 years, he worked alongside Frederick Carter, a man of few words and many millions. Owner of a Florida gas station chain, Frederick carried an almost supernatural calm, even in chaos. He never rushed, never panicked, yet money always flowed in. Benjamin noticed the details. Frederick's word choices, the books he read, even his casual remarks. And he discovered, yes, the wealthy do know something most don't. But what he learned, you can learn too. Keep watching to uncover Benjamin's discoveries, because this story will change how you see money forever. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Chapter 1. The Boy Who Watched in Silence. Benjamin Parker was 20 when he started working for Frederick Carter in the small Florida coastal town of Clearwater Beach. It wasn't a dream job, not even close. Just an administrative assistant position at one of the Carter Energy gas station chain offices. But for a recent trade school grad with no connections, QI, it was something. Frederick, the owner, was enigmatic. At 68, he had impeccably white hair and blue eyes that seemed to see beyond words. Discreet, nearly inaccessible. He'd say good morning with a nod and rarely spoke anything non-essential. But Benjamin observed. He noticed how Frederick handled major problems with the same calm as watching rain fall outside his window. How he moved slowly yet always seemed perfectly timed. How he never appeared to chase money, yet money came running to him. Through observation, Benjamin began suspecting the wealthy knew something special. Something he'd never heard at home, school, or church. Frederick wasn't arrogant, never showy. But his demeanor radiated rare confidence, a security independent of bank balances, as if he knew a secret, and Benjamin somehow felt this secret could be learned. One morning while organizing papers in the back office, Benjamin saw Frederick arrive unusually early, carrying an old leather briefcase and a worn brown book with a faded title. Frederick sat down, placed the book beside his tea mug, and gazed into space. He murmured something. Benjamin only caught a fragment. The divine plan unfolds in perfect order now. He mentally noted it. Divine plan. What did that have to do with oil, logistics, or retail? Yet Frederick looked convinced. No, serene. As if this wasn't just belief, but an operating system. That afternoon, Benjamin watched the old businessman decline a can't-miss $1 million deal. Money doesn't govern me, Frederick said calmly. It simply obeys my command. Benjamin froze. The phrase echoed in his mind for days. He began discreet research, scouring spiritual texts, mindset books, until he found a clue on an obscure forum. The name Florence Scovel Shinn. The Game of Life and How to Play It. He recognized it, the same brown book on Frederick's desk. The following week, Benjamin dared to ask, Mr. Carter, do you really believe money obeys people? Frederick smiled, a brief, almost secretive smile. I don't believe, Benjamin. No. But knowing requires more than theory. It demands practice. And silence. That night, Benjamin went home with something more valuable than any year-end bonus. A veiled invitation to discover a world most never access. And it was there, in that seemingly simple conversation, that Benjamin decided. He wanted to understand how it all worked. How someone could command money without chasing it, without working themselves to death, just aligning themselves with something bigger. Do you believe this could be true or not? Comment below, true or false. Chapter 2. Mr. Frederick's Secret Habit. Benjamin began paying even closer attention. In the quiet hallways of Carter Energy's headquarters, while managers upstairs debated spreadsheets and quotas, he studied old Frederick's subtle rhythms. His routines, his quirks, even the precise number of stirs he gave his tea each day. Then he discovered it. Every morning without fail, Frederick entered his office at 6:45 a.m., half an hour before anyone else. He'd turn on a single lamp over his oak desk, open the same worn copy of Florence Scovel Shinn's book, and sit there, decreeing. Not praying, not wishing, not complaining, decreeing. Benjamin peered through the slightly ajar door, mesmerized. Frederick spoke short phrases with a commander's tone, as if giving orders to the universe. I am an irresistible magnet for money that is mine by divine right. All that is mine by divine right now flows to me in perfect ways. The divine plan of my life unfolds in perfect order. These words echoed like power mantras. And it wasn't just the sound, it was the vibration behind them. Frederick spoke with the certainty of a judge delivering a final verdict, as if the world had no choice but to obey. Benjamin didn't fully understand, but he felt something shift inside him. Gradually, he realized Frederick didn't operate on business logic alone. An invisible, almost mystical force guided his decisions. He always knew when to retreat, when to invest, when to wait. And the strangest part, while others relied on spreadsheets and forecasts, Frederick listened to silence. On a gray November Tuesday, Benjamin finally dared to ask, "Mr. Carter, why do you make these declarations every morning?" Frederick rested his hands on his cane and replied, "Because the outer world is noisy. And money only obeys those who speak with spiritual authority. If you don't decree, it follows the world's chaos." Benjamin stayed quiet. That sentence would later join the quotes he'd jot down in his own notebook. In the following days, he mimicked the ritual. Woke 30 minutes early, pulled up a digital copy of the Game of Life, and whispered the same decrees he'd heard from the old master. First it felt foolish. But within days, he noticed something odd. People began treating him differently. A manager who'd ignored him started seeking his input. A perpetually late vendor called to thank him for his organization. Even his mother, who'd always called him spacey, remarked his voice sounded firmer, as if something unseen, yet real, had begun shifting around him. The next week, after another morning of decrees, Frederick looked at Benjamin and said, "Money is just a mirror of your dominant vibration. When you change within, it has no choice. It obeys." Benjamin never forgot those words. That same day, he resolved to document every lesson he observed. Not just the phrases, but the contexts, the postures, the silent decisions. Because here, between tea, decrees, and serene blue eyes, he was learning something no business school taught. Money wasn't to be chased. It was to be trained to obey. Have you ever tried any spiritual decrees or affirmations? Tell us in the comments if you felt any difference in your day. Sometimes, small words can make big changes. Enjoy and leave a like. Chapter 3: Benjamin's First Tests. Benjamin didn't consider himself skeptical. But he wasn't naive either. He respected Frederick, of course. Admired his clarity. His almost supernatural calm. But part of him, the part trained by the outside world, still doubted. That voice saying, "If this really works, why isn't everyone doing it?" Yet it was precisely this doubt that pushed him to test it. That Friday, arriving home, he did something unprecedented. Turned off all lights, lit a candle, sat in silence and opened Florence's book that Mr. Frederick had given him 2 days prior, a silent gift. In the corner of the first page, Frederick had written in firm script, "You're not here to chase anything. You're here to call what's yours." See. Benjamin took a deep breath, closed his eyes, and, half shy, half suspicious, began repeating, "God is my immediate and infallible source of supply." He repeated it for 5 minutes. Next day he tried again. This time for 10 minutes. Something shifted. No miracle occurred. No money fell from heaven. But for the first time in ages, he felt profound peace. Confidence not from logic, but from soul. Come Monday, still in that state of curious, timid faith, he decided to test decrees on a real challenge. An important Carter Energy client had delayed a large payment. Superiors had sent notices, even legal threats. Nothing worked. Frederick, for some reason, remained calm as always. That's when Benjamin saw his chance. Entering the conference room with the client, he breathed deeply. Mentally, he began repeating, "All that is mine by divine right now comes to me in perfect ways. There is a perfect divine plan for this meeting." Rather than argue, Benjamin listened. Rather than pressure, he observed. Then said just one sentence. "I trust you want to resolve this fairly, and know there's a better way for us all. Perhaps we're ready to find it now." The client fell silent. For the first time in weeks, he relaxed. The 15-minute meeting stretched to 2 hours. Finally, a payment plan was accepted, an agreement signed, and an unexpected compliment given. This young man has different energy. Everything feels lighter around him. Benjamin left in quiet shock. Not at the solution itself, but how it happened. Naturally. Without tension. Without forced effort. That night, he wrote in his notebook, "True faith isn't loud. It simply moves. And the universe obeys." In following days, he played with decrees. Decreed parking spots, important meetings, workflow ease. To his surprise, or perhaps not, everything flowed with near magical synchronicity. He remembered Florence's words. "The outer world merely reflects the inner world. Change your words, change your thoughts, and everything around obeys." Benjamin remained the same employee. Still wore the same blue shirt and worn shoes. But something in his gaze had changed. He no longer felt small before money. No longer saw it as an unattainable monster. Now he understood. Money was a servant, and he had finally claimed his commanding role. Have you ever had a spiritual test that surprised you? Have you ever decreed something and seen it happen? Share it here. You might inspire others like Benjamin. And don't forget to like it. Chapter 4. The Sign That Changed Everything. It was a stifling afternoon. The sky seemed to press down on the city's rooftops like a damp blanket. Benjamin had just finished another report when he was discreetly summoned to Frederick's office. Entering, the old businessman gazed out the window for long seconds before speaking. Then he said, "Ben, do you believe money can feel?" Benjamin frowned. "Feel? What do you mean?" Frederick smiled, still looking at the horizon. "It feels your energy, your intention, your clarity. And it obeys." Benjamin stayed silent. He sensed more was coming. Most people treat money like a wild animal. They try to lasso it, trap it, yell at it. But money is like a well-trained dog. Comes when called with confidence. It recognizes its master, but flees from those who fear it. That's when something clicked inside Benjamin. Mr. Frederick wasn't just teaching techniques. He was revealing laws. "What made you start thinking this way?" Benjamin asked. Frederick walked to a small wooden shelf. From it, he retrieved an aged envelope. Inside, a handwritten letter. "This letter was written to me by a woman named Helen. She gave me my first Florence book. And it arrived during my life's hardest moment. When I was bankrupt, with debts stealing my sleep and a company about to collapse." Benjamin took the letter carefully, as if it might crumble. Helen's words read, "Fred, money isn't your enemy. It's just energy awaiting instruction. It doesn't hear desperation. It responds to clarity, to command. Learn to command with faith." Frederick took a deep breath. "I reread this letter every night. Until I understood my problem was never lack of money, but how I saw it." Silence hung between them for moments. Benjamin felt like someone seeing the world's invisible framework revealed for the first time. That night, heading home, something happened. Walking distractedly down the street, pondering it all, he noticed a neon sign flashing across the avenue. He'd never seen that store before. Yet now it seemed placed there just for him. The sign read, "Command your life. Nothing less." It was a self-help shop, the kind selling books, candles, incense, and oracle cards. Benjamin entered without thinking. A smiling elderly woman greeted him. "May I help you?" He replied. "I just saw the sign. Something pulled me here." She simply smiled and placed in his hands a small handwritten card. "Your next step is ready. You just need to take command." That was enough. Leaving the store, Benjamin knew it was time to consider leaving. Not from arrogance, not from haste, but from calling. Something within whispered, "You've learned what you needed. Now it's your turn." Have you ever had a sign so clear it seemed impossible to ignore? Tell us in the comments. Sometimes sharing your moment is exactly what someone else needs to see theirs. Take advantage now and subscribe to the channel. Chapter 5. The decision that scares and liberates. The morning after his neon sign, Benjamin woke with his heart racing. It was as if his soul was trying to speak louder than his fear. He knew what he needed to do, yet the ground seemed to tremble at the mere thought. Handing in his resignation, not because he was unhappy. Quite the opposite. Working with Frederick had been a gift, but something new was being born, and ignoring this calling would be like suffocating a part of himself that finally wanted to live. He spent hours pacing his room. His mind raced. What if it doesn't work out? What if it's too soon? What if I regret it? That's when he remembered a passage from Florence Scovel Shinn's book that Frederick had lent him days earlier. He grabbed the well-marked copy and read, "Fear is inverted faith. It's believing something you don't want will happen. Fear delays, sabotages, and distances you from what's spiritually ordained for your life." That was it. He was letting fear take command. But money and life obey firm, confident directions from a clear mind and decisive heart. With this realization, Benjamin dressed and went to work. The envelope with his resignation letter burned in his pocket. He arrived earlier than usual. Frederick's office was still empty. He used the time to drink coffee and steady his breathing. Soon after, Frederick arrived with his characteristic good humor and elegance. "Morning, Ben. Looks like the world woke you early today." Benjamin smiled nervously. "Fred, could we talk?" Frederick immediately noticed the weight in his tone. They entered the office. Benjamin closed the door and handed him the envelope. Frederick didn't open it immediately, just looked at him. "You're leaving." Benjamin took a deep breath. "I have to, Fred." Not out of dissatisfaction. It's not about wanting more or less. It's about being true to what's awakened in me. Frederick opened the envelope, read calmly, then smiled, a mix of pride and anticipated longing. "I knew this day would come." Benjamin swallowed hard. "I felt a calling, an old desire to start my own venture, where I can apply everything I've learned here. And more." Frederick leaned back, crossed his arms and said, "Remember the first thing I taught you?" Benjamin nodded. "That money is obedient. It responds to command." "Exactly. And today you're giving your life's greatest command. To trust yourself. To lead your destiny." Silence. Frederick added, "Fear will try to shout. Try to keep you playing safe. But hear this, Ben, money loves courage. It's drawn to bold decisions that honor the soul." Benjamin felt warmth in his chest, an approval beyond words. Before leaving, Frederick handed him a heavy brown envelope. "Open it at home." That night in his quiet room, he carefully tore it open. Inside was a check and a note. "For your beginning. This isn't a gift, but a vote of confidence. The world needs what you carry." Frederick. Tears streamed down Benjamin's face. It wasn't about the money. It was confirmation. The universe truly responds when we align with truth. Have you ever considered stepping off the safe path to follow an inner calling? Leave a yes in the comments if you felt this way. Your testimony might inspire someone. And leave a like if you haven't already. Chapter 6. The Beginning of a Dream. The Entrepreneurial Journey. Benjamin stayed up all night. A mix of exhilaration and vertigo swirled inside him. The resignation letter delivered, Frederick's unexpected check in hand, and the weight of a new beginning settling on his shoulders. He knew. He stood at the border between the known and unknown. And borders are where miracles often happen. In the following days, he set up a small operations base in his apartment. The living room table became a desk, post-its covered the walls, and Florence Scovel Shinn's books stood stacked like sacred wisdom towers beside his computer. The first step was deciding, what exactly will I create? Frederick always said, businesses that thrive don't start from money obsession, but purpose obsession. Benjamin wanted something with soul, that helped people, that blended what he'd learned from Frederick with Florence's teachings on energy, action and faith. And so the idea emerged, a cafe with spirit, a place where people wouldn't just drink good coffee or eat healthy snacks, but reconnect with themselves. A welcoming space with Florence's quotes on napkins, self-help books on shelves, and renewal energy in every detail. The blueprint for Sacred Grounds Cafe was born. But reality knocked hard. He didn't have enough to truly start. Frederick's check covered initial steps, but fell far short of rent, renovations, equipment, and staff. He considered quitting, more than once, until he reread a highlighted passage in The Game of Life and How to Play It. Do not look at appearances. Look at truth. What you see is only your mind's reflection. Change the inner image, and the outer will transform. Struck deep. He decided to act as if the cafe already existed. Designed the logo, created social media, posted quotes and reflections, messaged close friends about his vision. Did with faith. Then the unexpected. A message from Michelle, a former college classmate now working in interior design. She'd seen his posts and was captivated. Ben, this is genius. Cafe with soul. Let me join. I'll help with the space and branding, no upfront cost. We'll adjust later if it works. Benjamin smiled. The wheel had begun turning. And it didn't stop. Days later, a former client of Frederick's, after hearing of Benjamin's departure, invited him for coffee. Fred spoke highly of you. I'm looking for new ventures to invest in. Tell me about this idea. Benjamin didn't know whether to laugh or cry. But in that moment, he finally grasped Florence's meaning. Nothing is difficult for the divine mind. Life obeys faith, and faith commands. The cafe's doors were still far from opening. Yet now he saw, with crystal clarity, the unseen was already working behind the scenes. Do you believe the universe moves forces when we act with true faith? Comment, the invisible is acting, if you also believe in the universe's power to return. And don't forget to like. Chapter 7. The Voices Against and the Voice Within. Are you out of your mind, Benjamin? The question came without warning. It was from his Aunt Vera during Sunday dinner. She was the practical type who saw the world in spreadsheets, paid bills, and retirement plans. Quitting a stable job to open some good vibes cafe, she repeated with a mocking tone, as if the entire universe had paused to laugh at the idea. Benjamin kept smiling, but inside something wavered. It wasn't just her. His older brother, a lawyer in Miami, had also weighed in. This is delusional. Real life doesn't run on self-help quotes, man. Friends began distancing themselves or responding to his social media posts with polite emojis. Others would say, cool idea, but what if it fails? And then came the worst voice of all, his own. Alone in his apartment, the cold night tapping at the window, Benjamin stared at spreadsheets, sketches, and his dwindling bank balance. A question whispered deep in his soul. What if they're all right? That's when, on impulse or intuition, he grabbed Florence's book again. He'd read it many times, But something made him flip to a random page. There, between dog-eared corners and underlined passages, he found, "The words of others have no power over you unless your mind accepts them as truth." That was it. Florence spoke of truth with a capital T. The kind that comes from within. The kind you only feel when aligned with something greater. Benjamin closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and spoke as if praying but with conviction. "The only voice I listen to is my soul's. The truth within me guides my steps. And where there's faith, there's a way." The next morning his phone rang. It was Frederick. "Benjamin, I heard you're facing resistance. Just wanted to remind you. No one who built something great was applauded at the start. The cheers come later. Keep going. You're on the right path." Benjamin didn't reply immediately. He was holding back tears. In that moment he knew. The universe was responding. For every act of courage, an answer came. Sometimes invisible, other times crystal clear. That week, Michelle brought a photographer friend to document the cafe's creation. The photos went viral in local groups. A conscious lifestyle blogger shared them. Suddenly, people were asking, "When does this place open?" Benjamin laughed to himself. It was as if the unseen was shouting, "You're exactly where you need to be." Have you ever felt the whole world doubt you? But deep down, something told you it was the right path? Comment on "I choose my voice" if you've ever experienced this, or are experiencing it now. Chapter 8. What is planted in the invisible is born in the visible. On the sidewalk outside Willow and Light, Benjamin crouched to inspect the first planters that had arrived. Small arrangements of lavender, rosemary, and mint, carefully chosen to frame the cafe's entrance. Nothing grand yet, but already perfuming the air. Michelle appeared with 2 steaming mugs of coffee. That herb scent has already drawn 3 curious people today. One asked if we were open. Benjamin smiled. The cold still bit his cheeks, but his soul was warm. The space wasn't fully renovated, yet he came daily. Meditated, lit incense, read Florence's words aloud, as if they were seeping into the walls with invisible meaning. The unseen is the seed. The seen is the fruit. That line echoed in him like a mantra. Everything physical now, the walls, counters, scents, partnership offers, had first lived within him. In his mind's eye, in his prayers, in his daily decrees. He knew. Money, customers, praise, all would follow as effects. But not everyone saw it. That same day, as he painted a sign with a local artist, his former co-worker Jared stopped on the sidewalk, crossed his arms. "So it's true. You quit everything for this. Peace Corner." "It's true," Benjamin replied, unshaken. "Hope you saved enough to crawl back when this fails." Benjamin just smiled. 'Cause now he knew. This wasn't about crawling back. It was about never running from himself again. That night, sitting on the cafe's unfinished floor, he looked around. Tables weren't assembled. Shelves awaited spirituality books and teapots. The counter was still raw wood. Yet something inside whispered, "It's ready." Because what he needed to see, he already saw. What he needed to feel, he already felt. And Florence was right. The outer world is but a faithful reflection of the inner world. When the unseen shifts, the visible obeys. Have you ever felt like something still invisible is already real to you? Have you ever tasted a dream that hasn't even begun? Write in the comments, "I already see it," and share your vision with the universe. Chapter 9. Money doesn't create vision, but vision creates money. The winter sun streamed through Willow and Light's windows like a blessing on every inch of the space. Not officially open yet, but already alive. Benjamin sat at the back with a sketchpad. Before him, drafts of new ideas. A corner for talks, reading nights, purpose-driven workshops. With each stroke, the vision expanded. Clear vision precedes manifestation. He vividly remembered reading this in Florence's book and thinking it was beautiful, but naive. Now he knew. You just had to see with the soul's eyes first. Then, like destiny whispering, the first harvest arrived. Michelle rushed in with her phone. "Benjamin, you won't believe this. A wellness influencer from New York saw our lavender photos. Wants to visit when we open. Said he'll post to 300K followers." Benjamin looked up, awed yet unsurprised. Not shock. Consequence. The world saying yes to what he'd silently affirmed for months. That same day, a specialty coffee supplier called offering partnership. A former client of Frederick's reserved the space for a therapist's gathering. Vision attracts. Clarity opens doors. Peace invites. Soon his blueprint became buzz in certain circles. Wellness seekers, spiritual pragmatists, mindful foodies. Drawn without his chasing. Truth was, he'd stopped worrying how money would come. He just knew it would. Because what he built within, the world mirrored without. On a call with Frederick that week, Benjamin shared. "Remember when you said, 'Money loves to serve vision'? Said it 1,000 times, kid. Now you see why. I do. Living it. And grateful." Frederick's laugh rumbled through the phone. "Then keep tending the vision. Money follows calm leaders." If you've made it this far, please comment on which city and country you're watching from. And leave a like. Chapter 10. Everything Obeys the Tranquil Mind. Willow and Light officially opened its doors that Saturday morning. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee, the soft scent of lavender, and the gentle sound of jazz filled the space with something no financial investment could ever buy: living peace. Benjamin stood still for a few moments before unlocking the doors, quietly taking in everything that had been created from an idea, from an invisible impulse, from an inner truth that only he could feel at the beginning. Don't chase money. It chases you when your mind is still and your vision is aligned with the divine. That was one of Florence Scovel Shinn's quotes that echoed deepest in his chest now. And he knew exactly why. For a long time, Benjamin believed money came only through force, sweat, stress, or inheritance. But Frederick had shown him there was another way. A path most people never even considered because it seemed too mystical, too intuitive, too impossible. And yet here he was, with a coffee shop in his hands, smiling customers, and an energy in the air that made visitors say, "There's something different about this place. It feels like a sanctuary in the middle of the world." That morning, Frederick walked in quietly, wearing his usual beige linen jacket and a modest but proud smile. Benjamin approached and hugged him. "I think I finally understand what you meant back then, when you told me money is obedient." Frederick looked into the young man's eyes and replied, "It is. But only to those who've learned to obey themselves first." Benjamin smiled. He knew exactly what that meant, because he had learned to say no to fear, to align with his inner truth, to trust in something invisible, yet present, to walk by faith without seeing the full path. He had learned that money isn't a reward for effort. It's a natural response to clarity, calm, and confidence. It's obedient like a mirror, reflecting back whatever you vibrate with the most strength and truth. As the day went on, each customer who stepped inside seemed to confirm that truth. It wasn't about how to make more money. It was about becoming someone money wants to follow. If you felt this in your heart, leave a comment. I am command. Money obeys me. And remember, your mind is the master. Money is the servant. Have you ever had an experience where, as you cleared your vision, the universe seemed to respond? Write in the comments, "I am clear vision," and declare it today. Money always obeys. But who's in charge? If you've made it this far, you need to hear this with an open heart. Money is not your enemy, and it's not your savior either. It's simply obedient. It has no morals, no ethics, no intention. It only responds. And the real question is, what kind of command is your money responding to today? To your silent doubts? To your rush to fix everything through effort. To your hidden fear of what if it doesn't work again? Or to your inner peace, your certainty, your calm, unshakable decree. Benjamin wasn't the most experienced, nor the richest, nor the most qualified. But he had something rare. He was awake. He chose to observe, to learn, to trust. And when he understood how wealthy people think, act, and feel, he stopped chasing and started being followed. That's the point. You don't need to chase anymore. You need to learn how to lead. Florence Scovel Shinn said, "Nothing stands still. Everything is in motion. And you are always issuing orders, even when you think you're just waiting." In other words, even your silence is a decree. So now I'll make a new decree. In the comments write, "I lead with faith. Money obeys me." If this story lit something inside you, if you felt there's a spiritual code that the wealthy understand, and you want more people to discover it too, Small Blue Diamond, leave a like right now. Small Blue Diamond, share this with someone who needs to stop struggling and start leading. Small Blue Diamond, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next teachings from Florence Scovel Shinn. Remember, abundance is already here. It's just waiting for a command. And you? Are you going to keep begging? Or are you finally going to start commanding? See you in the next video.